Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. I'm very happy to share with you a novel that I will read. It's something I read a few years ago and has stayed with me. The novel is a book about a woman empress from China in the late 1800s. She rose from being concubine to empress after having the only male child of all the wives. The story tells about a ruling period of 40 years and a time when she was dubbed Dragon Lady. The author, Anchi Min, has done a lot of research and found a historical recreation of the figure known as Dragon Lady. And she finds her to be a much more empathetic and value-driven person than the West had understood at the time. I'm going to begin the chapter after her son Tang Chi has been emperor for a while. Enjoy, I hope. On a warm day in the summer of 1874, I watched my eunuch, Li Lian-ming, cutting gardenias in my garden. He removed and discarded flower buds and side shoots, then sliced the stems into 3-inch pieces, carefully making the cut below a node. New roots will form at this point, he explained as he inserted the cuttings into containers. By next spring, the plant should be ready to go out in the garden. A month later, the cuttings failed to send out any new leaves. To test if the roots were growing, Li Lian-ying gently pulled on a cutting. He felt no resistance, which indicated the roots were not forming. He told himself to be patient and wait a few more days. "I've been doing this for years," he said to me. "It is how I've patched up the old gardenia gardens." But the cuttings began to wilt and eventually died. The eunuch believed that it was heaven's sign something terrible was going to happen. "Nothing will happen," the master gardener said to Li. "It could be your mishandling. Maybe the water was contaminated by an animal's urine, or there were insects hidden in the moss. In any case, the plants died of too much stress." I couldn't help but think of my son. He had been like a houseplant, protected until now from the rigors and uncertainties of the garden. Tang Chi caught a cold that didn't go away for months. He had developed a fever, and by autumn, his body was very weak. "Tang Chi needs to go outdoors and exercise," Prince Kung urged. My son's other uncles, Prince Seng and Prince Chun, assumed that Tang Chi's nightly dissipations had begun taking a toll on his health. When Dr. Sun Pao Tsian requested a meeting to discuss Tang Chi's real condition, he was rebuffed. I couldn't stand the sight of Tang Chi in a sick bed. It reminded me of his father's dying days. I summoned Alut and Fu Cha and the other wives, and asked them as they knelt before me if they had any idea what was wrong with their husband. Their revelation shocked me. Tang Chi had never quit going to the flowers. "His Majesty prefers flowers in the wild," Fu Cha complained. Alut resented my questioning. I explained that I didn't mean to intrude or offend, and that I was not interested in disrupting her privacy. Eyebrows twisted into the shape of 2 flying swords, Alut said that as Empress of China, she had the right not to answer. "It's between Tang Chi and me," she insisted. Her white, porcelain-smooth skin turned pink. I tried not to show my irritation. I told her that I only meant to help. "I'm not doubting your motives," Alut said to me. "It's just, I don't feel lesser in status." I was confused. "What are you talking about? Who made you feel lesser in status?" Luke nodded at the other wives. Everybody here is afraid of speaking her thoughts in front of you, but I am going to. Dowager Empress, Tung Chi is your responsibility, not ours. I was offended. Allude, you have no right to speak for the others. I'll speak for myself then. As His Majesty's mother, have you asked your son about what is wrong with him? I wouldn't come to you for help if I could talk to him myself. There must be a reason he abandoned the forbidden city for a whorehouse. You are angry, Luke. You really think it is my fault? Yes, I do. Facts, Luke. The girl bit her lip, then said, Emperor Tung Chi was fine with me until you told him to go to Fu Cha. You couldn't bear the idea that he would have a child with me and not with Fu Cha. That was how Tung Chi got sick of all of us, because he was sick of you. Alute may have had a point, but I rejected it because of her rudeness. Alute, how dare you? You have no right to disrespect me. But the child in my belly does. I was dumbfounded. I asked Alute to repeat what she had said. I am pregnant, she announced proudly. Oh, Alute, I was thrilled. Why didn't you tell me? Congratulations, rise, rise. I must go share this wonderful news with Muharu. We are going to have a grandchild. Not yet, Your Majesty. Alute stopped me. Until Tung Chi returns to me, I am not sure I will have the strength to carry pregnancy. Tung Chi is... I tried to find words to comfort her. It hurts when you know that he is with other ladies. Believe me, Alute, I know how that feels. I hate what you are saying. Alute began to cry. Well, I said, feeling guilty, be glad that you have Tung Chi's child. It's not up to you or me to decide whether the child will come into the world. My body and soul are in so much pain that I can feel it seeking revenge. I am afraid something unexpected is going to happen. It is heaven's will that you have been given a child, Alute. The dragon seed will survive no matter what. Without asking permission, Alute walked to the window and stood with her back to me. Outside, the giant oak trees were bare. The oak nuts have been dropping everywhere, Alute said, shaking her head. It's hard to walk without stepping on them. It is a bad omen. What am I going to do? I am not made to bear misery. Alute, I said gently, I am sure nothing is wrong. You are just tired, that is all. She ignored me, continuing to face the window. Her voice grew thin and distant. It gets louder. I hear the sound of nuts dropping and cracking on the ground day and night. I stared at the back of my daughter-in-law. Her silky black hair was elaborately braided and fastened onto a plait. Pink floral hairpins studded with diamonds glinted in the light. Suddenly I understood why she was Tung Chi's first choice. Like him, she had her own mind. It was on a morning in early winter that Dr. Sun Pao Tien broke the news that my son was not going to live. I trembled in front of the doctor like a young tree in a storm. My mind's eye saw red lanterns floating down from the ceiling. I tried to understand the doctor, but I couldn't. He was explaining Tung Chi's condition, but it sounded as if he were speaking a foreign language. Then I must have passed out. When I came to, Li Lian Ying was in front of me. He was following the doctor's instructions, pressing his thumb between my nose and the top of my upper lip. I tried to push him away, but I had no strength. Tung Chi has been visited by the heavenly flowers, I finally heard him say. Tell Dr. Sun Pao Tien, if there is any mistake, I won't hesitate to punish him. After lunch, the doctor came again. Getting down on his knees, he began his report. His Majesty's condition is complicated. I can't be sure which entered his body first, smallpox or venereal disease. At any rate, it's a deadly situation beyond my power to cure or even control. The doctor confessed that it had been a struggle for him to come forward with the truth. His medical team had been accused of bringing His Majesty bad luck. Everyone had been trying to keep Tung Chi's sickness a secret. I asked the doctor to forgive me and promised that I would control my emotions. An effort was made to stabilize Tung Chi's condition. In December of 1874, the spots of his body dried out and his fever abated. The palaces celebrated the signs of recovery, but it was premature. A few days later, Tung Chi's fever returned, and it persisted. I can't recall how I passed my days. My mind was capable of only one thought: to save my son. I refused to believe that Tung Chi would die. Sun Pao-Tien suggested that I seek out Western doctors for second opinion. They have the tools to take His Majesty's body fluid and blood samples, he whispered, knowing that he was not supposed to make the suggestion. However, I doubt their diagnosis will be different. The court rejected my request for Western doctors, fearing that foreigners would take advantage of Tung Chi's condition and see an opportunity to invade. I lay beside my feverish son. I listened to the sound of his labored breathing. His cheeks burned. In his waking hours, he quietly whimpered and moaned. Tung Chi requested that Nuharu and I resume the regency. I refused at first because I knew I wouldn't be able to concentrate on court matters, but Tung Chi insisted. When I read his decree to the nation, I realized what my help would mean to him. The ink handwriting on rice paper was my son's last calligraphy. Of all things, I was saddened by the fact that my grandchild would never see the way his father held the brush pen. I begged the two empresses to have pity on my state and allow me to take care of myself, Tung Chi's lived read. In looking after the affairs of state for a time, the empresses will crown their great goodness toward me, and I will show them everlasting gratitude. Every day, after an audience, I went to sit with Tung Chi. I spoke with Dr. Sun Pao-Tien and Tung Chi's attendants. I examined the growing pustules on my son's skin and wished that they were on my own body. I begged for heaven's mercy and prayed, please do not be too cruel to a mother. I ordered that no one was to disturb Tung Chi's rest. But the doctor advised that I let my son see anyone he wished. His Majesty might never have the chance again. I complied. I sat by my son and made sure no one would exhaust him. Alut refused to come when Tung Chi sent for her. She said she would not enter the room unless I wasn't there. I yielded.
We could have 1 minute on the timer to complete the evaluations. just to clarify, that was a specialty speech out of the advanced manual. It was Read Out Loud Project 4. To evaluate Anne's speech, Jessica.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, most honored guests, and especially Anne. I just found out as you did the objectives of Anne's speech, it was a specialty speech called Read Out Loud, so I assume that Anne was supposed to take a piece that was written and read it out loud. So I'm not exactly sure the objectives, but I did notice a few things that I really enjoyed about Anne's speech. And I apologize because I came in late, so I didn't catch the very, very beginning. But I really appreciated her vocal inflection throughout the entire speech. I love how Anne can really put her passion to anything that she does. And I felt like, even though she was reading, I could really feel all the parts of the story. Like, especially when she said, Tang-Chi is your responsibility, not ours. Just moments like that, I really could feel the vocal inflection in Anne's voice. Also, I felt that there were some points when she actually did look up from the book and take a second to really connect with the audience. For example, when she said, like him, she had her own mind, and she actually looked at us when she said that. So there were a few moments like that when, even though she was reading, she really did take the time to connect with us, which I appreciated. One of the things personally when I'm reading a book that I have trouble with is focusing when there's a lot of narration. I really appreciate when there's more dialogue, so when it gets into a big narration section, I sort of just tune out. So the parts that I really liked were the parts where she was speaking in the first person, and she was saying as a mother that she didn't want her son to die. That was when I really paid attention. And again, I could really feel that she was living that moment, and she was feeling like it was her son dying. So I felt that part really connected. In terms of improvement, I felt that there were some points where she could have made more use of the pause. So it was actually hard for me to write down because every time I thought of something, I felt like she kept going, so I had a hard time writing down the things that the examples I wanted to point out, but one of them was when she said, if there's any mistake, I won't hesitate to punish him, and then she went on and said, after lunch. But I felt that was a powerful moment where she could have actually let it sit a little bit and then gone on to say after lunch. I guess it's hard to really do some more acting when you're reading from the story, but I felt that maybe Anne could have done a little bit more of that, a little bit more connecting with the audience, and maybe some hand motions or even more vocal variety than she already had. But overall, I thought it was an excellent speech, and I really enjoyed the story. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Jessica. Our second speaker today is going to be doing a speech from the Competent Communicator Manual 2, Organize Your Speech. Alex Gitlin, and the title of the speech is How to Eat When You Have to, The Taste of Garnish. How to Eat When You Have to, The Taste of Garnish.
The taste of Gurnisht. What do you know about Jewish cooking? What do you know about What do you know about the gefilte fish, the cholent, with the lekach? What do you know? You know Gurnisht. What do you know about the taste of Gurnisht? Actually, you know quite a lot. Gurnisht in Yiddish is nothing. Nothing. Nada. When I didn't want to eat what was in front of me at the table, my grandparents told me, okay, you can always eat Gurnisht. In the series of speeches that I'm doing about how to eat when you have to, I stopped at the supermarket and we talked a little bit about the problem of everything. And we said that everything is a problem. You cannot cook everything, you cannot buy everything, you cannot worry about everything all the time, although we try to do it, especially here in Europe. This is where I draw the line. This speech is designed as an intermission, an overview of what we covered, and a preview of what's coming up. So what did we cover? We said that there is a difference between a grandmother and Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs wants you to stay hungry and stay foolish. Your grandmother wants you to grow up to be smart, and she wants you to be well fed. We said that you cannot really manage your time, but you can manage your ambitions. And if something falls off your schedule, you say, oops. And it's very important when you're trying to cook for yourself or for others. We also said that you can manage your ambition when it comes to the quality or quantity of your food. Just like Emerald wants to take it up a notch all the time, you can always take it down a notch. But the major point was made at the last meeting, and that's, as I said, there is a problem with everything, so you draw two lines. On the very far end is the most popular thing nowadays on the internet, in books, in the cooking shows. And that's something special, something different, something exotic, something. So that's the far end that it gets a lot of exposure nowadays, and all the time. There's the other end, which is gurnisht, nothing. You don't get to eat nothing. You don't get to cook nothing. You don't have to cook anything. And there's this middle that doesn't get enough exposure. In the olden days, when we lived in our little worlds, and we used to spend a lot of time with our parents and grandparents, we cooked something. Not something. We had holidays at some points, we had festivities, and that's when we ate all that other stuff. What's coming up? What is coming up? What's coming up is the solution for everything, and that's the something. In the upcoming speeches, I'm going to cover how to cook something which would be easy, foolproof, good, and cheap. It wouldn't take too much of your time. And then I'm going to talk about the something, the something special, which doesn't have to be that special. But what I'm going to focus on is the human aspect of it. Essentially, when you are cooking or you're doing anything, you're doing it for people. Even when you're cooking for yourself, you're doing it for yourself. Right? You need to enjoy it. There is a study about, this popular brain porn field called behavioral economics. So they did the study, and in the study, they gave people a choice to choose something, some snack, and then they gave them a choice again with the nutritional information. Then they asked them, how much did you enjoy it? So those who had the nutritional information, they picked the different stuff, but they didn't enjoy it as much. But those who got less information and had time to ask themselves, what do you really want? Enjoyed it more. And then we're going to go into other topics such as ingredients, diet, measuring the temperature, managing your fridge, stuff like that. As a conclusion, I have just one question for you. Did you learn anything. Did you learn something during my speech? Well, that's much better than garnished. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. We have 1 minute on the clock for to complete the evaluation. Thank you, Penelope. And Alex's answer to the question, what did he want to be when he grew up? He answered, a Jew. Yeah. To evaluate Alex's speech, Brian, is it Bobber?
Bober.
Brian Bober.
Bober, like sober.
Got it.
For the record, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and so of course when I got to undergrad, I majored in accounting. I've had the benefit of hearing Alex speak many times, perhaps more than any other speaker. And when he speaks, you can probably bank on the fact that he's going to speak about food. Seeing him up here, I was a little surprised that he is so trim and not a heavier man. I thought he put himself behind the 8 ball early, though, by not offering us this time any mango and/or some sort of tropical fruit. But he was able to overcome those hurdles. Alex asked me to focus on structure, and I thought he had a very strong beginning. He came up here, he had a pause or even a sigh, and went right into his manner of speaking, which is typically and naturally very humorous. I think that he has very good vocal inflection, not different voices per se, but higher and lower and all that kind of interplays together to make for a humorous, comfortable, confident speech. He was very well rehearsed. You could tell that he had made an investment and spent a lot of time practicing it, and that led to him being more comfortable up here. So back to the structure. The speech was supposed to be about structure, and it clearly had a very strong beginning. It had a middle, and it had an announced conclusion at the end. However, I would say that the structure probably could have benefited by being tweaked a little bit. I wasn't always sure where the speech was going. The intro he did explain to us, garnished. Then there were some examples in the middle, and it wasn't until the end that it started for me to tie together a little bit, saying, well, I'm going to be employing it in future speeches, and these are the things I'm going to do now. I felt like that part of the speech would have benefited if he had moved it earlier, and then perhaps add some examples or stories around that. One other criticism, and it's not a big one, but his eyes do drop down to the notes sometimes, and I think it perhaps is force of habit and not really that necessary, because he was clearly so well prepared, and I felt like the speech was inside of him, ready to go. So perhaps next time I might advocate him moving the notes away and coming up without the notes, because they're probably not necessary, and looking down ultimately proved to be a distraction. However, in summary, another strong speech, and in all seriousness, I've seen perhaps 5 or 6 of the speeches, and I feel that Alex is progressing in building. Very comfortable, relaxed, and I look forward to hearing how garnished will be applied to his future speeches. Thank you.
Great evaluation. So our final speaker today is Rochelle Rice, and I'm sure it's a very advanced speech. She's a very advanced speaker. And the title of that speech today is Your Path to Leadership. Your Path to Leadership, Rochelle Rice.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and welcome guests. The moment you joined leadership, the moment you joined Toastmasters, you began your path of leadership. I can stand here confidently today, 12 years later, and tell you because of this organization, I am the leader I am today. You have to be willing to embrace 3 qualities: vulnerability, authenticity, and a willingness to be inclusive. Vulnerability. Vulnerability to me is your willingness to be called to the carpet. Now, as a leader, this isn't an easy task to do, and at times you may stand up here feeling naked, like I do right now. When I got the email at 10 a.m., I said, okay, I'll take the speech. What manual? I don't have a manual, I left early this morning. But the willingness to be naked and be okay, and to create the resiliency to stand there naked. I think you all know what naked feels like. Let me tell you, one of the challenges I had about being the leader and the willingness to be vulnerable was when I was working as the president of the National Speakers Association, the local chapter, and one of my team members, the treasurer, said, Rochelle, your leadership style is your way, Rochelle, or the highway. Yeah. Boom! And I had to stand there, naked as all I could be. But the willingness to be vulnerable and hear what she had to say. Authenticity. You will make mistakes. As a leader, you will make mistakes. So get over yourself right now and be willing to make the mistakes. Now, one of the things I've been not here very often is because I've been working with the National Speakers Association, the local chapter, and leadership role there. And one of the things that came up was a little clash between a fellow member of the chapter. And when I was going for an interview for another higher level within the position, they said to me, Rochelle, how do you manage conflict? When there's conflict, are you authentic or do you walk away? Now, I don't know if any of you have read Rory Vaden's book, Take the Stairs, but he talks about a story in there. When there's a storm, the cow will turn and walk away from the storm. But the bull will stand there and let the storm pass over. So in my willingness to be authentic, I said I'd like to consider myself a bull. And I'll stand there and take it. And I can guarantee you this has been one of the greatest skills I've ever learned. The last thing is this ability to be inclusive. How many of you remember what it's like to be picked last on the team? And some of you are our finest leaders in this room. See, I know that feeling as well, and partly this is why I run my business. But this feeling of inclusivity, how do you get your team members engaged? You have to be specific about what you're asking them to do, but not be attached to the process. As the leader of the National Speakers Local Chapter, we were running a very, very big event. Carol, who's a friend and a colleague, was in charge of the welcome baskets. You know when you, welcome bags, you know when you have 50 bags laid out and you've got to drop all the stuff in it? I had a particular way of getting this completed, but so did she. She had 10 other people involved. All of those people got that done. It was completed, perhaps not the way I wanted to do it, but it was done. And we included 10 people to do it. You see, as a leader, these 3 traits, your willingness to be vulnerable, authentic, and inclusive, are to me your path of leadership. Now, in this organization, we recently embraced the idea of leadership, or added in more, not just a speaker, but you're a leader. And whether you sit here today as your first time here, as Neil is today, or you've been here for years, Alice, I invite you to step up again in this role of leadership. Whether it's on a community level, or whether it's here in the club when we stand up today as we take elections, or whether it's out there in your workplace or in your house of worship. You see, the world to me is craving this style of leadership. We are hungry for authenticity. We are hungry for people to be vulnerable. And we are hungry to be included. Instead of creating this fighting system, step up and out of all of this. The world is craving for this style of leadership. Embrace your journey. Mr. Toastmaster.
We have 1 minute on the clock. Complete evaluation. Thank you, Penelope. And when Rochelle answered the question as well, what she wanted to be when she grows up. She said Naomi Rowe, past president of the National Speakers Association. She described her as dignified, professional, all class. To evaluate Rochelle's speech today is Becca Starr.
Master Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Rochelle. Rochelle had the tough job today of doing a pocket speech. And I have the even tougher job, I think, of evaluating Rochelle. She is an amazing speaker. I think we all knew right off the bat that Rochelle's passion and, to use her word, authenticity shows through in every one of her speeches. And especially today, because with a pocket speech, often it's difficult to, your structure sometimes doesn't stay with you or to say exactly what you mean to. But she took that to another level where she was able to remain professional and composed and bring that emotion in with her, that authenticity that comes with being put on the spot. She did, I have to say, I noticed, and I'm sure very few of us did, but there was the slight hiccup in her first line. But what I love about Rochelle is that she walked right over it. I barely caught it, and I only kind of backtracked and realized what had happened after the fact. That is one of the hardest things to do. And I really commend Rochelle for being able to take it in stride and plow forward and move on with the speech as amazing and fantastically as she did. The structure was fantastic. She started out, she told us exactly what she was going to go through. Each of her body points had an example and had comments that she wanted to make about it specifically. We were taken through it with a very fluid structure, and I felt like it was a very natural process. Her tones were great. As we know, Rochelle is a very advanced speaker. She's very, very articulate. She's able to use a lot of intonation. I loved when she mentioned the Rory Vaden, is that Vaden book, and used a lot of drama with her tone. She did occasionally get a little bit colloquial, and I think that that's something that, again, comes with doing a pocket speech. But the type of thing when Rochelle said, naked as I could be, I almost thought Rochelle was going to say, naked as all hell, or something like that. And I almost felt we were going in that direction. She unfortunately stopped herself, brought herself to that professional place, but it did get a little bit colloquial. I loved at the end how Rochelle directed her attention towards specific members. It really, that personal touch really brings people in, and I thought the speech was wonderful.
So that was our last of 3 great speeches today. I think all the visitors in here would agree that boy, it doesn't get any better than this. It doesn't. That's why it took me 6 months to join. So, looking at the agenda, the next thing I think is club business. I don't know who would speak about club business. Our president, Ariel.
Hi everyone. Today we will have club elections. Now in order for us to have the club election, we have to have a quorum. At this point, I need to meet with my executive board outside to make some decisions in order for us to have a successful quorum because we're missing some members. Who is the table topic master today?
Nadia.
Nadia. Can someone replace her for a moment?
I thought I was the table.
Thank you. Thank you.
Too. I looked at you guys.
Come on, you can do it.
Can I have my executive board please meet outside at this moment?
You can do
And we'll
it.
return in 1 moment. Thank you.
Sorry. So our table topics today, which is the best part of every meeting, because you get to be called up and just have to say whatever comes to your mind. So the master for today is on.
So I was recommended a book to read, and on the first couple pages of the book, there were 2 quotations, which was very interesting to me. And so I'm gonna call up someone and tell that person what that quotation is and ask them what they think about it. The first quotation is, "Time flies over us, but leaves its shadow behind." I'm sorry, are you a club member?
I'm a guest.
You're a guest. Okay. Yorate, can you please tell me what you think? Would you like to repeat anything?
Oh, yes. But I'm not sure if I changed the topic. But can
So the
you-
quotation is, "Time flies over us, but leaves its shadow behind."
Okay, Mr. Table Topics Master and fellow Toastmasters and most welcome guests. The topic is about the time. Yes, it flies and. However, we always remember the best that happened to us. And the best that happened to us, one of the events, it was joining Toastmasters Bryant Park in 2001, just about the same time with Rochelle. However, I took a break, 10-year break, and she, look at her, she's already at National Association of Speakers, and I'm still struggling to speak up. I had so many good things that I remember, and actually everything that was not that great that happened in my life, I really don't remember. Do you? I don't. I remember the best things. Okay, I guess.
Back to business. So, in an effort to be transparent in this organization, we have to make some members inactive because they don't longer participate in the club as we like them or to the Toastmaster promise. So we now have a quorum. So we need 22 people. There are 22 people in this room. Secretary, do you agree?
Yes, there are
Okay,
22
so
members.
So we're good to go. Okay, so for some of you, you've seen an email. I sent an email to clarify what the positions are and what the description is of each officer, just to be clear. And we'll also, in the email, also describe what the process we will follow today. Is anyone here confused or not clear as to the process we will follow today? For the sake of time? Thank you, ma'am. Love that. Okay, so first, we will Excuse me, it's my first time doing this. So we'll proceed by each office, starting from the first one, president. We'll work our way down to vice president, president of education, vice president of membership, vice president of PR, secretary, treasurer, and sergeant at arms. I will ask for a nomination, first nomination. I will ask for a first nomination. I will ask for a second nomination. Those that second the nomination, you do not have to qualify the nomination. If you want to speak, you can speak. 60 seconds is your limit if you wish to speak. If in the nomination there are two people nominated for the same office, we will close the ballot and take a vote. Am I correct, Ms.?
We close the nomination.
Close the
We'll take a
nomination,
secret ballot.
then we do a secret ballot, and then we announce the winner. And I believe that is the main rules that I want everyone to understand. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for the first office of president. Are there any nominations for president?
Mr. Toastmaster, I joyfully nominate Michael Herman as the next president for Bryant Park Toastmasters.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rice. Do I have a second nomination?
I second that nomination.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. Is there anyone else? Do I have to? No, excuse me. I want to make sure I do this right. I'm setting a precedent here,
You're doing
okay?
great, you're doing great.
Ask for nominations. Are there any?
Can I nominate from the floor?
Yes, ma'am. Who would you like to
I
nominate?
would like to nominate Jessica Pearl.
Jessica Pearl. Would you like to nominate? Jessica Pearl, do you accept this nomination?
I don't accept it.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for the nomination.
Brian Bober, do you nominate someone on the floor?
I second the rejected nomination.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to nominate from the floor for the office of president? Okay, that nomination is now closed. Mr. Secretary, I would like to call a motion for the secretary to submit one ballot nominating Mr. Michael Herman for the office of president. Mr. Secretary, do I have a nomination for the secretary to write the ballots?
You only need the motion to close the nominations, and then you can request the secretary to do it.
Secretary, do that for me.
I cast one ballot favoring Michael Herman to be the president of the club.
Thank you very, very much. We proceed to the second office, Vice President of Education. Do I have any nomination for Vice President of Education? Jessica Pearl.
I nominate Katya Ferranda for Vice President of Education.
Katya Ferranda, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Do I have a second? Do I need a second? Second
I second
nomination?
it.
Second, thank you. Do you accept? Thank you. Is it any? Does anyone want to vote for Vice President of Education from the floor? No. I close that nomination for VPE. Mr. Secretary.
I cast a ballot favoring
Katya.
Katya to be the vice president.
Thank you very much. I open the ballot for Vice President of Membership. Do I have a nomination for Vice President of Membership?
I would like to nominate Naomi Montanes.
Do I have a second voting Naomi Montanes for Vice President of Membership? Thank you. I have 3s, 4s, and 5s. Do I have any nomination from the floor for Vice President of Membership? No. Close the nomination for VPM. Mr. Secretary.
I cast a ballot for Naomi to be the vice president membership.
Thank you very much, sir. I open the floor now for Vice President of Public Relations. Do I have a nomination for Vice President of Public Relations? Mr. Herman.
I would like to nominate Giurati Gattini. She just said that she is not remembering any of the bad things that happened. I think that qualifies her perfectly for this position.
That's perfect, thank you. Do I have a second? Second, third, thank you very much. Does anyone want to nominate another candidate for Vice President of PR from the floor? No. Nominations are closed. Secretary.
I cast a ballot confirming Giurati Gattini, PPPR.
Thank you very much. Next, this will be the fifth office, the office of secretary. Do I have any nominations for secretary? It is a very easy position. Mr. McGreal, would you like to take up the nomination? Would you like to nominate yourself for vice
Sure.
So nominate yourself for vice for secretary. Thank you very much. Do I have a second? Three, of course. Thank you. Do Do I have any candidates for the floor that like to be nominated? Nope. Ballot is closed, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, I cast a ballot confirming Mr. Doug McGreal as the secretary for the club.
Thank you. Now we head to the sixth office, the office of treasurer. Do I have any nominations for treasurer? I nominate Cam Pardo. He accepts the nomination. I'm sorry, do I have a second for Cam Pardo? Thank you. I spoke to him and he accepts the nomination to be treasurer again for 2013 to 2014. Is that okay? All right, no. I know he can't run again as president. I can't run again.
But he definitely can run again as
Okay,
treasurer.
just wanted to make sure. Any nominations on the floor for treasurer? Okay, that nomination's closed. Mr. Secretary,
I cast a ballot confirming Cam Pardo as our treasurer.
did you? It's already closed. Sorry.
Ready.
Okay, thank you. And finally, our seventh office, Sergeant at Arms. Do I have any nomination on the floor for Sergeant at Arms?
Yeah, I nominate Anthony Smith.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second nomination? Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you accept this nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. The ballot is now closed.
I cast a ballot confirming Mr. Anthony Smith as Sergeant of Arms.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask all nominees, or is it nominees at this point, or candidates? Mr. Fred.
New officer.
New officers, stand. Vice President of Education, please come second. Vice President of Membership, please place third. VP of PR, Cam will be here. Treasurer, Secretary, Treasurer. Ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
Step back.
will you please stand and give a hand to your new board for 2013-2014. That concludes our vote. Let's get back to table topics. How much? Woo! Okay. Do we have a dinner evaluator for this meeting? Alice? Okay. So I return the floor back to the meeting back to Doug McGreal.
And as our general evaluator today, to assess the meeting and how good it was, because it was definitely good, is Alice Hecht. Alice?
Thank you, Doug. Mr. President, how long do I have? Do you want me to cut it shorter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, for the respect of time, I'm going to focus on two of our speakers who have not been evaluated. The first one is Doug, who took on the function of Toastmaster, I think today, this morning, and I really find it absolutely amazing how he raised up to the function. And he said it was the first time. I was so impressed by his control of this meeting, which was a little bit hectic to say the least. But he kept it moving, he was at ease here, he had a good voice, he gave us a sense that there was a clear path, even though it was clear that the path was coming as it was going. My only suggestion I had today to say it is that because we really didn't know what the speeches were, it would have been a good idea if he had inquired about the objectives. So he could have mentioned the objectives of his speech, but really quite an amazing job. And then I want to focus on our president, the way he managed this election. I think we should send him to Florida. To do the whole thing, because personally, I had no idea what the process was. But it didn't matter. I trusted that he knew. And if he didn't know what the process was, he knew who to ask, which is a key of leadership. If you don't know, figure out quickly who knows. And in this case, all the time he was looking at Penelope, Am I doing the right thing? But I will say okay. So congratulations, a great meeting, and I'm going to cut it short because our president asked us to come out of the meeting room early. Congratulations.
First of all, I want to thank Doug McGreal for stepping in as Toastmaster today. I want to thank every one of you who helped me be here today because, again, this is a collaborative effort. Without 22 people, nothing can happen. So thank you for always stepping in when one of your members needs you or when I need you. And when this man here needs you, because we will help you when you ask for help, sir.
Yeah.
So thank you.
For those new officers who have not been an officer before, come and see me.
Our guests, please sign the guests. Yes, please sign in. Don't forget to sign in. Keep track of your attendance.